Welcome back to Gold Derby. I'm Christopher Rosen. I'm joined by Joyce Ng. Joyce, it's time for an Oscars playback we've all been waiting for.
Have we though?
The 2006 Oscars, when Crash, as Jack does when it wins, won Best
The arms
Picture.
up, raise eyebrow.
Crash. I don't really do a Jack. That's about his
You
best.
have a Jack?
I guess it's like Crash, like that, but it doesn't really sound like him.
No, it's not that high pitch. It's like a lower tenor. It's like raspier.
I'll spare you doing more Jack Nicholson. But no, Crash wins Best Picture choice. What a year. Closing out a great year in film.
Or not great, Bob. Here. This was very rough for me. I have a very short list of films. I mean, even at the time, I was telling you before we started, like experiencing the year live,
yes,
2005 in film. I was just like, not a lot of great stuff. And there's so many films when I was going through the year, I was like, that I forgot existed, that I had actually seen many times.
Mm-hmm.
Like Just Like Heaven. I was like, I actually watched this movie a lot when it was on TV.
Sure.
In time period, but totally forgot it existed. And then just not a lot of I feel like just not a lot of films that have endured, like whether just like from a cultural standpoint, like obviously there's Brokeback Mountain, but like just in general, like I feel like a lot of things are kind of forgotten a little bit from this year. And then like from an awards standpoint, there was just so much consensus around, it was very top heavy, and I struggled to fill out a probable 10 if there were 10.
It's tough. I was looking through it too. We usually, when we do this, I'll make a list in my Google Docs, Joyce, of like the year in film. And it is like, I'll just like, man, there's like 50 films that I'm like super hyped about, and I'll type them out. And this year, let's just say not 50, but there are some that I really love. And I think that I love more now than I even did at the time. But some that I'm just like, oh no, not great, Bob, as you said. This is the 78th annual Oscars. Took place on Sunday, March 5th, 2006. 3 hours and 33 minutes.
Yeah. Jon Stewart was a host. This was in early March because of the Winter Olympics. So it was the first time they've been bumped since moving to February, that they've been bumped into early March because of Olympics. And fun fact about the ceremony, it was on one of my midterms in college.
Oh, wow.
I crushed it.
Wow.
Because so like 2 weeks after the ceremony, it was my copy editing and layout midterm. So obviously the like main part of it was just, laying out a newspaper. Remember newspapers? Remember print? Cork Express? Yeah. We never use those anymore. Any of those programs. But then the last part of it was like current events. And I feel like every journalism class should have that kind of component if you're going to study journalism. So it was just like general news, and then just kind of like basic info that you should just know about the world. Like one of the questions was like, name a senator from your home state. So I was like, Hillary Clinton. So I just assumed like my professor was going to look up where we all came from, And then there was a section about the Olympics, which obviously I nailed.
Obviously.
And then the last part was about the Oscars. And it was literally just like, name what won Best Picture, Best Director, Best Actor, Best Actress. And I was like, this is made for me.
Got it.
And after the test, like, like me, my friends, like the entire class was walking out, and a lot of people were stumped. And one of my classmates was like, she knew that Heath Ledger did not win Best Actor, but she didn't know who won, so she just wrote Heath Ledger anyway.
I love
that. A couple people said like they wrote Brokeback. I was like, Brokeback did not win Best Picture.
It's amazing. Even weeks later, people don't even remember this stuff. It's truly remarkable.
Well, I mean, I don't think, and most of them watched it. I think they just knew about like Brokeback Mountain, and they would know it's the front runner. And probably even if they watched it, like, like they delete it from their memory, like 12 hours later. So they're not like us.
No.
But
they were not they were not one of the 38.94 million people maybe to watch this Oscars. Like you said, Jon Stewart hosted for the first time. I thought he did pretty well. It was a much different monologue because he's like standing in front of a podium for most of it, I felt like, right? Or like a lot of it. He just basically did his Daily Show routine for the Oscars. And it's funny. I thought like a lot of his stuff was pretty funny. We'll talk about this, I guess, as we get to the ceremony, but like I just thought overall he was good.
Yeah. I mean, like, are we just gonna skip our favorite films because we don't have any?
No, we can go. We'll do the favorite films. Here's what I wrote. Here's the ones I wrote down. All right. And you tell me what you add. I wrote down Hitch with
I love Hitch. This is one of my favorite films. Like top 3, like no contest.
So clearly Will Smith should have won Best Actor for Hitch. Not this year, but
like,
just in general.
Kevin James, great performance.
Great.
Eva Mendes. I'm also partial to this film because I carry Benadryl with me all the time.
Smart. Very smart.
Yeah. Not certainly, the bottle, the pills.
Yeah, pills. No, I get it. Yeah, great. Yeah. Just an iconic Will Smith movie, I feel like. Very great performance, very fun.
Yeah, it's very loose, and I want to see more of him in this mode.
I don't know if he could do this mode anymore.
Yeah.
Not just because of the...
Who knows what he's gonna... Like, we have Bad Boys 4 coming out.
Yeah, even Bad Boys 3 before, like, I just felt like this was like the peak of Will fun Will, and it just got less for not even judge. I'm not casting judgment. It's just he's not as fun Will, even in Bad Boys 3, and like.
Well, yeah, because after like he just, I mean, obviously he's always done action films, but it like he's kind of just leaned more into more action and then more like serious drama.
Right, but Hitch ruled. Another one, this one I wrote down that was big. Now, this is funny because these are like February, March. We're already into March, basically. I remember this was like a big one I saw.
How dare you skip Elektra in January?
Jennifer Garner coming back. She's
Deadpool
back.
3.
She can't wait. Deadpool 3. Here comes Elektra. We're doing the same stupid bit with the multiverse.
18 years later, here we go.
I can't believe all these movies, Joyce, are doing the same stupid bit. How is this? Like, is Deadpool going to make fun of the fact that it is doing the stupid bit? I don't even like Deadpool, but I was like, I just hope it's doing that, right? Like that it's.
I don't know what it's doing, and it's still in production during the writer's strike, so they can't. It's like, I mean, like, do we really believe? And we're just off on a tangent now. Like, do we really believe Ryan Reynolds is not ad-libbing?
I don't believe any of this stuff. I also, I'm just like, they're fine. They're hand waving it away. All these movies that are shooting, they're just doing whatever they want, basically. And we're recording this much earlier, so if the writer's strike has ended, congratulations, everyone. We're so excited for you. I wrote down Sin City, which was a thing, and I saw it in I believe Union Square. I saw it.
I don't really care for Sin City, but yeah, sure.
It's my thought is gross. But it was like it was a thing because there's like, I think didn't Tarantino direct like the car scene? There's a scene where like Clive Owen is talking to Benicio del Toro's corpse. Or is that the second one? I don't even. I think this is the first one.
Yeah, they have. I mean, they credit multiple people, don't they?
It's. I mean, and it was a big deal because it was like Robert Rodriguez.
Like the DJ had to clear it. I remember that.
And he was making it like it's like all of it's like on a set, right? And that was like the big thing. Like it was like he was like inventing technology or whatever to do green screen basically to make it look like a comic and have all these famous people in it. This was at the time when like Clive Owen again was like really ascendant and just like the best. That he was like the best part of this movie for sure.
Yeah, he had an Oscar nomination in 2005,
right?
For Closer from 2004.
Right.
Yeah, that was fine. That was another movie that's like, I know in my mind that movie existed, but I completely forgotten about it because no one really talks about it anymore.
No. Here's one I really liked at the time. You're gonna laugh in my face. Fever Pitch, good movie.
I love Fever Pitch, even though it's about the Red Sox.
Really fun though. Really, actually, like a good Drew Barrymore rom-com. If the Farrelly brothers had won for this instead of Green Book, I think I would have been much happier.
Well, it was only one of them,
right? But they, let them win for this. Crash, which I saw, Joyce. I was trying to think when I saw this, so we'll talk about Crash a lot probably as we get to it. But did you see it in the theater? I actually saw this in the theater.
I did not see it in a theater.
I think I saw it
opening night, May 6th, 2005.
I didn't go opening night, but I went like in May. This was because the May movies were bad. This year was like bad. Like the spring and summer movies. It's like Kingdom of Heaven was like the May like Gladiator spot, and it just sucked.
That was when, Orlando Bloom was just trying to come off of Pirates and Lord of the Rings.
Right.
So.
And the Sandler movie was like Longest Yard. There was the third Star Wars when we already knew that this was just a DOA prequel. None of these things were any good. So like I did see Crash in May, and I think I saw it. Do you remember in Bayside, Queens, there were 2 movie theaters on either side of the LIE, right? There's like the AMC in Bayside that they redid.
The one, if you're going west, the one on the right is gone now, but the AMC, if you're going east on the right, is still there.
So the one that was on,
I saw Top Gun Maverick.
That's where you saw Top Gun. That's awesome. I love that one. I went there a lot, but we saw Crash in the one that was heading west, whatever that was. Maybe a Clearview.
I've been there. That's where I saw a lot of movies when I was a kid, like Babysitter's Club.
Sure.
Jumanji. Yeah.
So I went there to see Crash, and I remember we sat like in the corner because it was packed. It was like a word of mouth hit. We sat like in a corner seat. Anyway, Crash. We'll talk about it. My take remains, I have not seen it probably since this. So this is now many years, but at the time I felt a solid Airplane movie, and I never have to think about it again. And then months later, it won Best Picture. So joke's on me.
I mean, like, let's be real. It exceeded everyone's expectations, including the people who made it.
Certainly, as we'll talk about. Other ones I wrote down, Mr. and Mrs. Smith was a fun time at the movie.
I love that one. I saw it in a theater. That became like my parents' like Christmas movie. They watched that a lot on Christmas.
I gotta say, haven't seen it in an incredibly long time.
Wow. I own it on DVD too.
Not sure. I mean, I remember Vince Vaughn being fun. This was a movie that I enjoyed.
Well, it was overshadowed by Brangelina.
Sure. And now that's obviously got taken on different undertones. But I would say the other thing I loved about it at the time, not just the Brangelina stuff, but it was like a movie that had like multiple, it felt like an Eyes Wide Shut situation where it just was like people are in it and then they're not in it, right? Like, remember how Harvey Keitel was like in Eyes Wide Shut and then just wasn't? And like here it was like, wasn't Angela Bassett in it? Is she actually in it, or was she supposed to be in it and they cut her out?
Was she cut out? I don't remember.
There was like a lot of people in it who were not,
there's a lot of people who were cut out
and then just booted out, right? Like,
and then a lot of people whose like parts were just cut down.
Yes.
Drastically. So they only have like one line in the film.
Like Vince Vaughn is in it, right? Like,
yeah. And like Adam Brody.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. There's a lot of.
Oh, Angela Bassett is in it uncredited. But I think her part was like severely cut, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, they cut down a lot of people. I remember that. Because I remember people also kind of not being like upset, but just kind of being surprised because it was, you were expecting to see more of these people in there. It really was just like the Brangelina show.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but yeah, I love that. And my other favorite summer movie was March for the Penguins.
Ah, no, an Oscar winner, Joyce.
Yes. Just very cute, charming film. I actually saw that. The theater was unsurprisingly empty when I saw it with my friend, and then we walked out, and then we were at this point, we were in college, so it was in the summer, we were just home from college, but we saw our old high school AP Calc teacher leaving, but we didn't say hi. We just saw him from the back. We're like, oh, we just watched the movie with him. Nice. So yeah.
Batman Begins, Joyce.
Yeah, the first of the Dark Knight trilogy. I've seen this one the least of the three.
Probably I would agree, because I've seen Dark Knight Rises like a weird amount of times, nothing as much as Dark Knight. Batman Begins was a great movie. I think it's really good. No notes really, just a solid.
It's solid
movie.
I just haven't revisited it a lot. So
here's one that I love now, that I was like mid on at the time, and then I've seen it a lot, and I love this era for Spielberg. War of the Worlds, I think, is a really great movie, and it's like Spielberg has this and Munich in the same year.
I know, he rushed through Munich.
And like they're both like really great. I feel like post 9/11 like concept movies that like really that work exceedingly well now, that have aged really well. But War of the Worlds I think is awesome. Like it's just like a great movie.
Tom Cruise should have been nominated for the peanut butter scene.
Great. Never possible he's never seen a sandwich before.
Maybe. I don't know what Scientologists eat, so
who knows. Another movie we can remember seeing it opening night. I've seen it about 500 times, and I'm sure it's canceled now, but Wedding Crashers was a huge
I saw it opening night. Huge.
So I remember seeing it opening night as well, and it was similar to my memory of seeing Titanic, when I saw Titanic opening night, actually, in Glen Cove, we had to go because it was sold out everywhere. I remember we were like second row because it could not get seats. And Wedding Crashers, I remember seeing it, I guess it must have been either in Bayside or maybe, I don't even remember where, but we were second row because it was just packed. Like opening night, packed, did not disappoint. Vince Vaughn, just I just love Vince Vaughn, and he's so good at this.
The entire with the football and skeet shooting scene, just all time
incredible. Yeah. Joyce, I love it so much. I haven't seen it in a long time, but
I haven't seen it in a long time either. But I watched it a lot, like in the aughts.
Same. I'm hoping if I put it on now, I wouldn't be hiding under the galaxy at the cancellations. But it was a lot of fun.
I mean, I watch things made by canceled people.
I don't think, I mean, I don't even know, but I don't think anybody's canceled in it. But I mean, I guess
like people like find it problematic, but like I mean, yeah. The thing is like art are artifacts of its time. Like, sure. I think it's unfair to judge it in contemporary lenses. Like, you could look back and say like, you know, what we can learn from it now, but like, that's what it was like then. It doesn't mean like that, you know, usually in the past, like things were not great, you know, hopefully in the future things will be better, but you know, maybe not the case. Who knows? Sometimes, but you know, that's what it was back then. It's very cringe, you know, a lot of things, not just that, like a lot of things back then were very cringe, but yeah, you could, I don't think, you know, that's my issue with like, you know, a lot of shows or movies now, like scenes being removed because now we understand it to be problematic. But it's like, no, that's what was made then. Like, let it be, let it live, and we can learn from it.
I agree with this. Wedding Crashers rules. Another one I loved in this vein, 40-Year-Old Virgin, which I've watched a ton and I think is amazing.
That was when we moved back in for college, and then August, that was the first film I saw. Like literally, I like unpacked all my stuff, and my friends were like, "Let's go see 40-Year-Old Virgin," and we did. We saw it for $3 with student discount.
Wow, that's great. I saw it. I was in LA visiting my friend who had moved out there after college with his wife, and we saw it at whatever mall. Like, I don't even know what LA. I'm not an LA guy, Joyce, but I guess we went to
it in Century City.
Yes, we did. And it was great, and I was like howling laughing, and it remains absolutely freaking hysterical. And Steve Carell should have gotten the Best Actor nomination. That was my takeaway thinking of this movie. Remains great. And Nicole Holmes, Catherine Keener, not Nicole Holmes Center, also great. I love this movie. What else did I write down? We're getting to the end of what I wrote down, basically. But I have
I have Sister of the Traveling Pants.
Okay.
That came out on my birthday. Wow. I didn't see it on my birthday. Okay. Well, because it was a Wednesday. I saw it like opening weekend. Sure. This is another film where I loved a lot at the time. Obviously, Solid Sequel. I've read all the books, but I also don't remember anything from the books because the last one was like 12 years ago.
Amazing.
But my friend and I watched both movies a lot, and you know, allegedly there's gonna be a third, but who knows? They've been saying that for years.
This is my Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants that I saw a lot on TNT. The movie Four Brothers. Fucking rules.
I've only seen that once.
That was a TNT special. I never even saw it in the theater, and I've seen it 500 times. Mark Wahlberg, it's just awesome. A great time at the movies, as it turns out, or sitting on your couch. Another one I wrote down was The Squid and the Whale, which I love, and I saw it BAM, I believe. I went into the city, or into Brooklyn, Joyce, excuse me, to see it because it was like an indie release.
Yeah, Noah Baumbach. So
loved Squid and the Whale. Remains a great movie.
Yeah,
I feel like
that would have, if that had come out, you know, in the past decade, it would have done a lot better.
Certainly, and it really I love everyone in it. I think it's so good. Here's one that was a huge flop that I rewatched recently, and I can't say it's great, but I don't think it needs this much hate, is Elizabethtown. That
movie, it's actually not that long. I think it's like 2 hours, right? But it feels very, very long.
It feels long, and it's got a lot of ideas, and Cameron Crowe is done, I guess. Doesn't make movies anymore, seemingly.
It was not a great year for Orlando Bloom.
No, but it's actually
he was supposed to level up.
I would argue this is not a bad movie. I don't know if it's like diminishing returns of some of the stuff Cameron Crowe put out later, or just like blind faith in Cameron Crowe. But I don't think Elizabethtown is that bad. I haven't rewatched it recently. I literally,
I've only seen it once, but it was interminable.
It's good. It's good. Another one I watched it last year, rewatched, and it's actually pretty good. Jarhead, Sam Mendes and Jake Gyllenhaal.
Jarhead is just this is like the beginning of one of those like Jake Gyllenhaal movies.
Yes.
Where like it has like really high expectations pre-release, and you think it's gonna be like I'm obviously he has Brokeback this year too, but it's like you think it's gonna be like another nomination for him or something, and then it just underwhelms for some reason. Like whether it's critically or box office, like something, it just does not take off.
Jarhead had this amazing trailer with Jesus Walks. Do you remember the trailer? Just an amazing, amazing trailer. And it didn't live up to the hype. But I did rewatch it like last year. I did like a massive Sam Mendes rewatch to get psyched for Empire of Light. Do you remember that? I'm hoping it comes out soon.
You saw it in the Empire of Light.
Oh, I did. So. I saw it already. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Anyway, Jarhead was pretty good. It held up pretty well among the Sam Mendes movies. This one I wrote down as probably my favorite of the whole year, Kiss Kiss Bang Bang.
It's a great film. This is like the beginning of RDJ's comeback.
He's so good in it. I kind of wish he would do something like this again, but I don't know if he'll ever do something like this again.
I don't know. It's hard to say what he's gonna, like what he's kind of pursuing. It feels like he's kind of doing like a little bit of everything since being done with Marvel. So he has the Sympathizer.
Yeah, when
HBO, he's obviously in Oppenheimer.
When people are watching this, Oppenheimer will have been out, so
yes,
we haven't seen it.
Yeah, so I don't know, because he didn't really like he made like the Dr. Dolittle films like while he was Iron Man. Like he basically did nothing else while he was in the MCU.
I mean, Kiss Kiss Bang Bang.
Oh, he did the Judge.
Right, the Judge. Remember the Judge with Jeremy Strong? Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, Iron Man, and Iron Man 2 are basically he's playing the same person. Like that's it. And then even Iron Man 3 is still like this kind of RDJ. When you get into like the later Marvel stuff, it's like a different RDJ. I feel like he's not doing the same.
Well, because like by that time, because he's just like emeritus status now.
Right.
He's like, you know, the elder statesman, and he's like preparing to leave, and he does. Right. So now, like, he can do whatever he wants. Really,
I truly love RDJ. I actually think the thing we did as Senior was last year on Netflix. You can watch it now. He's great in that. It's a documentary, obviously, about his dad, but he's like playing, or whether it's like whatever it is, you want to believe it's him, or it's just he's great as himself, basically in it, even though it's a documentary. I don't know. I'm always like, how much great
as himself in a documentary.
Well, I'm like, how much is real? I mean, a lot of it does seem real, and like it is real, but it also is like artifice because it's like he's in it. You know, I don't know. The only other 3 movies I wrote down, Joyce, so maybe you have more, I hope. The Family Stone.
Love The Family Stone.
Big year for Rachel McAdams. She's got this, Red Eye with Cillian Murphy from Oppenheimer, Joyce, which we haven't seen. And then
Cillian. I like Cillian in that too. But big year for Rachel. Yeah. And but great Diane Keaton performance.
Great Diane Keaton.
She should have been nominated.
The other ones I wrote down were Munich, which I think is really good. Not great. I don't think it's great. It's good.
I like Munich a lot, and I think it's very underrated. I think I don't know if he should have saved it for next year, because I don't think I would have won the next year either. I think it probably would have performed about the same in either year, but they rushed it out, and I like that, like when Spielberg does these type of movies, like it's such a serious subject matter, but it's still highly entertaining.
It's very, I mean, I would say like very, very good. If I was giving grades to these two, I would say War of the Worlds maybe like an A, and Munich like an A-. They're both really good movies. I just like War of the Worlds a little more.
I prefer Munich over War of the Worlds.
That's fair. And the other one I wrote down was Match Point, which was a great Woody Allen movie.
Match Point, obviously, I was into, because if you're going to name your movie after a tennis term, I'm there. And then you open the movie with a net cord, I'm there.
I think it was originally supposed to be in the Hamptons, and he moved it to
and then he had
England.
to move it to London. So
but it was a great like crimes and misdemeanors Woody mode, basically.
Yeah, it's not like one of my faves, but it was fine. I'm not like, I don't think anyone was particularly like amazing in it. Like ScarJo got the Globe nomination, but they're obsessed with her.
Yeah, she
So
was fine. It's good. I mean, I was thinking, and I was like, I haven't seen this or Midnight in Paris in a long time, but I would say I think this was better than Midnight in Paris, of these like late stage Woody Allen movies that were in awards considerations.
my favorite film of the year was Pride and Prejudice, obviously.
Sure.
Amazing film.
Yeah.
Matthew McFadden should have been nominated. Just most iconic hand flex of all time.
We didn't know how good we had it until Succession, basically, with him.
No, I don't like, Succession kind of makes me upset because there's so many people, like children, who like did not know like he was also Mr. Darcy.
Yes.
So that it upsets me when like my faves go mainstream.
Of course.
And I have to deal with ignorance.
Right.
And yeah. But a great film, amazing score. I like the Brokeback score too, but I wish the Pride and Prejudice score had won. Rumor has it, with Jennifer Aniston and Kevin Costner. I saw that in the theater.
Wow. Big Graduate fan to see that one?
No, it was just like because it came out at the end of the year, and then like I saw it with like my parents over the holidays. The New World, which I've only seen once, but I liked it. Aeon Flux, which was the beginning of Badass, Charlize Theron, did not do that great.
No. Karen Kusama back now, thanks to TV.
Yeah, and then that was her second film of the year with Frances McDormand, because they were also in North Country. In Her Shoes, lovely Shirley MacLaine performance. Curtis Hanson, R.I.P.
Love that movie, really good.
Domino, Tony Scott, R.I.P. This came out. It's not a great film. Keira Knightley, a big year for Keira Knightley too. It's not a great film, but this came out a couple months after Domino Harvey died herself.
It was a Richard Kelly script, right, from Donnie Darko. I remember it being like a thing that he's like now, like it was just like a nice blending of, you know, Tarantino-y kind of like hot screenwriter with Tony Scott again, like trying to catch the True Romance vibes, I guess.
Yeah, and then there was, I mean, a lot of people were in there, like Walken's in it.
Yeah.
Mickey Rourke, Monique.
Yep.
And then the Dukes of Hazzard, Jessica Simpson's acting debut. Yeah. And Sky High with, you know, a baby Nicholas Braun. You never saw Sky High?
No.
How rude.
No.
Wow.
I did not. I did see King Kong. Didn't like it.
That was one of those underperforming studio temples.
Yeah. Long movie.
Yeah.
How about Brokeback Mountain, Joyce? When did you see that?
I saw it in a theater.
Me too.
With my friends, and then we went to Cheesecake Factory for lunch afterwards.
I saw it. I went, and remember in Port Washington there was the Cineplex Odeon.
Yes.
Soundview. That's where I saw it.
I saw it at Raceway.
Okay. Love that. That was a good theater. Raceway's a good theater.
It's still good, but I haven't been there in a while.
Brokeback Mountain, I'll say good movie. Haven't really revisited it. Was never the biggest fan. Definitely should have won over Crash. So I'm not going to be out here being like no, but not one of my all-time faves.
I like Brokeback a lot. I saw it a lot back, not a lot, but I saw it multiple times back then, and I rewatched it a couple years ago. Not the full thing because it was just on like HBO, like it just started, so I just watched the rest. Yeah, I'm not obsessed with it, but it's obviously a superior film to Crash.
Yeah, and like, no argument.
It's just very beautiful and tender, and I love everything Ang Lee did with it. So yeah, it, you know, I think it was ahead of its time. It was too early for the Oscars of that era.
Well, was it though? Because what if it was up against Coda? Maybe it would have not won either. No,
there were just more old white men.
Sure. But I still don't know if it would have won. I think it would have needed a different kind of year. But like Power of the Dog and Coda had similar vibes.
I mean, Power of the Dog and Coda are basically, you know, the future version of this, covering completely different things.
Right.
But that's what it was, because it was one film that was more contemplative, quieter, challenging or it probably all confused people because people didn't get the twist.
Right.
And obviously back then in 2005, a lot of people could not handle watching, gay men on screen, gay cowboys.
It was definitely like I mean, it was I don't know if you had memes back then or we called them memes, but it was an immediate meme. And like, it's a movie that like didn't
it got immediately. I think that also kind of hurt it because there were a lot of jokes at its expense.
I mean,
I think it was hard for the team, the marketing around it too, like how to deal with that. Cause it's like, you don't want to, like, do you play into it? But is it bad if you play too much into it, but you don't want to, rebuke it or anyway. Yeah. And then, cause then it's like, oh, you guys don't have a sense of humor, it's so tough. And then like these other films, like Crash and Coda, they were the emotional films that very heavy handed and, it played broadly.
Right.
So that just, and if there were films of the moment and, I think the Hollywood Reporter a couple years ago, repolled voters about this year, 2005, and a lot of them were like, yeah, Brokeback should have won.
Well, yeah. I mean, like, Crash should have not won. I mean, it's like an airplane movie. I would say the one thing it's in thinking of like now how it would be marketed, like Netflix did play into like the meme aspect of Power of the Dog with like Bronco Henry. So. I'm not sure if that was maybe, I don't know. Did that work? Who knows? It didn't win, and like that's not why I lost. But I just was like, I don't know what the answer is for these when they're like immediately memed. Like Brokeback became like a punchline, right? Like it's in the opening of the Oscars. I mean, like obviously it's celebrating these year movies, but like there's a lot of Brokeback material at this Oscars, like comedy material, comedy.
Yeah, and obviously, people we were all like less enlightened back then.
Yeah.
Too. So it was just like now looking back, it's like I can't believe everyone was joking about this like this way and making these kind of jokes, but it was like that was just what it was like back then because like we kind of like society just kind of lacked that nuance.
Yes.
Back then, and people were less empathetic towards LGBTQ back then as well.
Mm-hmm.
And also a lot of people, like Academy members, were not used to that type of film. Obviously Tony Curtis and Ernest Borgnine famously dissed Brokeback, did not want to watch it. I have quotes from them if you want to hear.
Well, we could get, I guess we'll get into the ceremony and then we'll do the best picture and you can read those quotes. So the ceremony starts, Joyce. We're here at the Oscars with Billy Crystal and Chris Rock coming out of a tent. It's a great segue here for Brokeback Mountain. Billy says, I can't do it right now, I'm busy. And Chris Rock says, I'm busy too. They're looking for a host. Great way to start the show. All the people who wouldn't host.
Yeah, this is like just one of their go-to gags every year in some form, because it's always just like, who's going to host? And like so-and-so, like a former host is not going to come back. So then if we get a new name, then we just lean into that joke about these people don't want to come back.
So the next up is...
Right. And it's like, why am I doing this?
Yes. So that's what it is for Jon Stewart. So they have Billy and Chris, like, not going to host. They go to Steve Martin, very funny bit with his kids with white wigs. Whoopi Goldberg says no. Then David Letterman says he can't do it because he's with Steve Martin's kids. Hilarious David Letterman bit. I'm assuming they all wrote their own bits, I feel like, or at least worked with John on this because it's like really funny. Then it goes into just I don't even know. We're launched into space with Mel Gibson on the set of Apocalypto.
Yeah, he can't do it either.
Well, yeah, no kidding. Just what? And then Mr. Movie Phone to talk about dating something.
Yeah, and then he eventually wakes up in bed with Halle Berry.
Yes, but then it's a dream because it's like Newhart. Yes.
Yeah.
Then George Clooney is in bed with him.
Yeah, so he wakes up and it's really George in bed with him, and then he comes out. So, and then immediately he says, welcome everyone, ladies, gentlemen, Felicity.
Yikes. I wrote yikes.
No cringe, but like now we're just like how, like he would be killed for that now.
He wouldn't even do it now. I mean, obviously.
No, you wouldn't do it now, but if he were to do it now, just murder.
Felicity Huffman was in Transamerica, Joyce, playing a trans woman, which also none of that would even work now anyway. I don't even think that movie would not exist in that form.
Yeah.
This is, again, Jon Stewart, political guy, and a lot of it is like just, him making politics shows. It was the first time many of you have voted for a winner, he said at one point.
Yeah, it's funny to watch the ceremony now in 2023. Because I remember watching it back then, like he was still kind of in his like early ascendancy on Daily Show. So I think a lot, like now we know like Jon Stewart and everyone loves Jon Stewart, right? But back then I feel like he was still on the come up. So it was still kind of like, oh, it's kind of like another outsider situation coming in, right? Like Chris Rock style, except like Jon is not an actor too. So he had
Big Daddy, you know.
Yeah, but like, come on. And so I think they were still not like quite familiar with him.
Yeah.
But now, like watching it now, like, you know, in 2023, it's like even if like some of his jokes are more problematic, I think knowing like the type of celebrity he is now, you would expect like a better response. Or I think like the response overall was just kind of like mid. You know, it was like he's just doing his job. There wasn't anything overly enthusiastic.
I gotta say, watching it, I mean, that Felicity Huffman one is obviously cringe and like not good, but like overall, I thought he was really funny, and like it's not really problematic. It's certainly less problematic than like the Steve Martin one we did a few weeks ago, where it was just like constant like sexist jokes. This is like pretty funny, and he's like, again, it's a weird fit because it's a late night host who was known for doing like fake news, not fake news, but like doing news, you know what I mean? Like, you know, and like having him there, it just feels like strange, but it kind of works. And like he is an outsider, but like an outsider who is wants it comes off like Chris Rock came off as like an outsider who's like fuck everybody, and Jon Stewart comes off as like an outsider who's
He's more like erudite. Yeah.
And I want to be part of this. I want to be inside, you know, that kind of thing. Like
he's also not like really jabbing Hollywood the way that Chris was.
No.
So it's like pretty light jokes at their expense.
Yeah. So let's go into it, Joyce. Best Picture. We'll start right at the top. Crash won. Crash.
Any of the other four would have been better.
Truly the worst movie here by a wide margin. Brokeback Mountain, Capote, which we have not talked about. Totally fine. Never saw it again.
I haven't seen that in a while. You know, I liked it at the time. I just haven't seen it. So.
Good Night and Good Luck, the George Clooney movie. Never saw that again. Totally fine. And Munich, which we just said was great. All of those here's all of those in different orders, and then here's Crash, like down there.
Yeah, I think, you know, obviously there are a lot of people who are upset about Brokeback's loss, but I don't think it's just the fact that it lost. It's more the fact that it lost to Crash. The outrage would not be as loud. It would not have persisted had it lost to any of the other films.
Now, we were kind of talking about this is not an argument worth having, I don't think. But we were talking about this before of if this is better or worse than Green Book. I think this is better than Green Book, personally.
The movie, you mean?
Yes. I think Crash is, whether or not it succeeds, I think Paul Haggis was going for like, he's called it like a fable, and he like is intentionally amped up a lot of the stereotypes, and like it feels a little more cynical, whereas Green Book felt like very straightforward down the middle. At the same time, I understand they're both kind of doing the same thing, but I just think Crash is like a better movie. I don't think either of them are good though, but I really think Green Book is not good. So I would put Crash over Green Book if I was making a list of like the worst Oscar winners ever.
I'd say Crash is a worse winner than Green Book. I don't even know if I can compare them as films. Like, I don't know what I would say is better. I've only seen each of them once. So
well, would you say, so that's what I'm comparing as films. I think Crash winning over Brokeback is worse than Green Book winning over the stuff it won, because I think that year's Best Picture lineup is not as maybe strong as these four that we just read. Like, it feels like,
well, I'm not even thinking about the competition. I'm just thinking about the fact that they will always be known as Best Picture winners.
Yeah, then to me, Green Book is still worse. I don't know. I think Green Book sucks.
I think like Green Book to me is just another Driving Miss Daisy. And it's like you said, it's like, you know, up the middle, like totally average. But it doesn't try to be anything else. And like, I guess you're appreciating the swing that Paul Haggis is taking, because like a lot of his like explanation about what he was trying to do with Crash was that he wanted to just perpetuate stereotypes for 30 minutes and then turn them on their head the rest of the film, but he doesn't actually do that. Like it's like the movie is just a giant anvil beating you over the head the entire time. And one of like my biggest issues with the film is that it's just like every character in that movie is so paper thin, and like racism is portrayed as loud and overt when we know the most insidious form is covert and quiet and behind closed doors. And then the way it's just like, you know, it's like, oh, like racism pushed me down the stairs. It's like, it's just so in your face. And that's like the hand holding that I think speaks to people too. And that's why people have such an emotional response to it. And it does things where it doesn't make the viewer feel complicit, like namely white people, right? It kind of excuses it, being like, oh, everyone is a little bit racist in some way. And then it like its lesson is kind of just, you know, racism will stop if you just stop doing racist things. And then it also kind of peddles the idea that all like these people are racist because they're just having a bad day or there's something wrong in their personal life.
Right.
It's so it's like I know what he was trying to do, but he was not successful at it.
I don't disagree with that. But I think Green Book is like, I think the fact that he's thought, I'm trying to speak for Paul Haggis, just based on like he's given a lot of interviews.
He's given a lot of interviews, and he has said multiple times that Crash should not have won.
Right. But I do think at least the idea that he had, whether I think you're right that it's not super successful. Obviously, I don't think it's a very good movie. I'd say it's like at best like literally like an airplane movie. Put it on, like watch it and forget about it. But I think the fact that he actually thought of these things through, I don't like, to me, Green Book is like let's hold, like we're gonna just hold hands and, you know, racism will be fixed if everybody's nice to each other, and like firmly believes that. And whether Crash actually doesn't, I think you're right, it doesn't succeed in that, but at least the idea that he understands that this is like that white people are gonna like react. I think he's like trying to go to response in white people, and I don't know if they do respond to it, but not necessarily in the way that a better filmmaker would have made them respond.
Yeah, they responded in like the wrong way.
Right. And maybe he's not the right vessel to have done it. I don't even think he's that good of a director anyway. I mean, like, but you know, whatever. The movie's not any good, and we both would not have it win. I guess Brokeback should have won, but maybe Munich I would have put above Brokeback if I was making my list of these 5.
Well, so the thing was, this was a huge upset.
Yes.
Obviously, because Brokeback was the favorite. It had won everything except SAG Ensemble in the lead up. And then so the other big thing about this year was that Lionsgate, which distributed Crash, they just blitzed everyone with screeners. So this was like a huge thing at the time. So I have the story here. They had this was like their version, you know, of like an Andrea Riseborough like rogue campaign. They obviously don't have a ton of money. They were not going to do FIC events and stuff. So the origin story of Crash, there's also an oral history of Crash in Vulture that they did a couple years ago, but the film premiered at TIFF in 2004. I was gonna say 2015, 2004, and Lionsgate bought it, and then they decided not to rush release it in 2004, and they were gonna do it in 2005, and then there was a discussion of a platform release too, but then they decided to do it wide, and it turned out to be a good idea, because if they had just platformed it in New York and LA, it had very mixed reviews, so that could have killed it, but it had such a great general public response that it did well, you know, in the box office. And then it was out on DVD, like home release, by the fall. So it was already out for consumers. So their campaign, they told Paul Haggis they were going to run an Oscar campaign. And he was just like, oh, that's great for the actors, thinking they were going to do acting. He's like, no, we're going to do Best Picture. And he's like, please don't. It's just a tiny little movie. It's not going to go anywhere. But they did it. And their whole, Lionsgate's whole thing was just sending out screeners of the film. And they didn't care about piracy, which was a big thing back then, because the film was already out on DVD. So this is not an issue to them like it was for these other films that were only being released in the fall and the winter in the theaters. So this is after they got the SAG nomination. This is in Variety. The headline is "A Crash Course in Hype," published January 11th, 2006. While most studios consider the mailing of 12,000 to 15,000 screeners to be a major push. The indie distrib, love the variety lingo.
Bafo lingo.
Is sending out north of 130,000, including the unprecedented move of including all members of the Screen Actors Guild and the Writers Guild. The company has pioneered several attention-grabbing marketing techniques over the years, using ingenuity in lieu of a hefty marketing budget. It is also flooding the industry of crash DVDs because it can. The title is already out on DVD, so piracy is not a concern. The company is breaking precedent, but not any rules. So studios in the past have avoided sending out to the 13,000 members of the WGA and 111,000 SAG because of costs and fear of piracy. So Lionsgate is also sending out to the 6,000 members of AMPAS, 6,000 members of BAFTA, and other voting groups, including the 2,000 members of PGA and other major critics groups and the HFPA. The DGA does not allow screeners. SAG confirmed it's the first time a screener has been sent to all of its members. So then blah, blah, blah. And then there's some quote in here. Where is it? From Tom Ortenberg, the Lionsgate president. So he said the crash campaign will cost several $100,000. And he says campaigning for a movie that was released early in the year can have its advantages. Quote, we're in a unique position. We can't encourage people to see the film in theaters. And we thought it would be better to let the movie speak for itself. We are at greater liberty to do a broader DVD mailing. And then, so this is also the first time Lionsgate has made waves. Oh, this isn't the first time Lionsgate has made wave screeners. Like, remember the screener ban from a couple years back? So then they were doing that. So then, yeah, the last quote from him is, it's a subjective call. You make decisions that you think are best for you. So, you know, it was a great play. I think that's how they really secured that SAG win. I think they probably would have won SAG anyway in hindsight.
The momentum was building.
To everyone.
Yeah, and this is so movie came out by October. The whole cast was on Oprah. Joyce, she was like a big proponent of the movie. Had her crash moment, she called it, as you said before, or before we started recording, at the Hermes store in Paris, I believe.
Yeah, she was denied entrance. So.
Even though she's Oprah, so it like really spoke to her, the movie.
Yeah, so they had Oprah's endorsement,
and it wanted SAG, and that kind of like obviously springboarded. When you watch the show back, I mean, obviously hindsight being 2020, there is a great enthusiasm for the whole movie in the room. So while Brokeback won everywhere, I do think there is obviously momentum for the movie, and it does seem like one of those things similar to Coda or any of these other movies that win Best Picture, like even Moonlight. When you're watching it, you just know they just love this movie. They want it to win, and it's going to win. That's basically what happens.
Yeah, I mean, obviously actors are the biggest branch. So I think it really, obviously it won SAG. So it spoke to them the most. I think they're just very, actors, very sensitive creatures, empathetic creatures, usually. So, and I think they have a high tolerance for this kind of emotional
manipulation.
Yes. Yeah, and emotional manipulation, and there was a lot of that in the film.
Yeah.
So
and there's a lot of like, the thing is, it had so many famous people that there's a cross section of like, a lot of different like Hollywood friend groups, probably. You know what I mean? Like, it's just this like, Brendan Fraser and Sandra Bullock and Don Cheadle and Terrence Howard Ascendant on Hustle and Flow, and like all these different famous people involved.
Yeah, in the oral history for it, like Terrence Howard talked about how Lionsgate wanted to mount a supporting actor campaign for him. And then they decided not to do it because they didn't want it to hurt his lead campaign for Hustle and Flow.
Right.
So, but yeah, it was a large cast, a lot of famous people, and it was also the underdog.
Yes. I think it was another momentum, like coming in, you're being told for months that Brokeback Mountain is the best movie of the year and has to win, and forgetting, regardless of like the tone or what the movie's about, like people don't like to be told that this is going to be the front runner, right? Like we've seen that over and over again, a front runner lose, basically, in that aspect of it. Not maybe like this is obviously a big Oscars upset, but like nowadays the front runner rarely goes through for the whole season.
Yeah, you need a lot of just backing, a lot of momentum from different spheres.
Yes.
to maintain your number one spot for the entire season. But it's funny to talk about, Crash being so emotional, because it is. But Brokeback is also emotional too. It's the tragic love story, right? But I think it's, like the knock on Power of the Dog was that it was not emotional, which I also don't agree with, but I understand. Like, I do think it's, quote unquote, colder compared to Brokeback. But Brokeback is emotional. I think it's also, homophobia, like, let's be blunt, like at the time. And a lot of people, there are definitely people who did not want to see it and did not see it. Like, in EW, they talked to Kathy Schulman, the Crash producer, and Diana Asana, the Brokeback writer, about this. And Diana was at a Oscar party that Paul Haggis threw for nominees. So she says, Clint Eastwood was there. So Paul was going to introduce her to Clint, one of her favorite directors. And on the way over, like, Paul was bringing her over, he stopped and said, there's something she should know. Clint hadn't seen Brokeback yet. So, quote from Diana, "It was like someone punched me in the stomach. You would think, being a filmmaker, you'd want to see every film. It's what you do. The fact that he hadn't seen it, it was kind of like, I see." And in parentheses, when asked to confirm Asana's story, Eastwood did not respond.
Wow.
And then I have these quotes here from, Tony Curtis. He, about Brokeback, he said, "It's nothing unique. The only thing unique about it is they put it on the screen and they made them cowboys. Howard Hughes and John Wayne wouldn't like it." And his favorite film of the year was Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire.
Wow, twist.
And then Ernest Borgnine, he said of Brokeback, "If John Wayne were alive, he'd be rolling over in his grave." So just
true.
A lot of invocation of John Wayne here.
Based on John Wayne, definitely true, I would argue. They make fun of this in the ceremony, Joyce. They have a whole montage in the opening monologue, I think, of Hollywood Westerns made to look like they are have like gay romance in them, basically.
Yeah, like
same-sex romance,
gay undertones.
Yes. Another a hoary bit, I would say.
Yes, and then just another piece in like the joking about Brokeback. Part of the puzzle. So
it definitely felt like a lot of the jokes were jokes about it and not like it's not taken serious. It's like a meme, and like people obviously very aware of it, but not taken seriously as an art form or an artistic statement, even though it wins Best Director and wins Best Screenplay and all these different things. I don't know.
Yeah, and then I'm kind of glad that this happened pre-social media.
Oh my God. I mean, social media is the absolute worst. Every day I wake up,
media literacy is an all-time low.
I feel like I'm like Ben Affleck in Good Will Hunting. Every day I wake up and I open up my phone and I click Twitter and I'm praying dummy Elon has shut it off for good. And every day I'm disappointed. But one day,
Threads? You didn't go on Threads?
No, I did sign up for Threads. I see people are. I'm asked not infrequently, "Do you want a Blue Sky account?" You know what I don't want? A fucking Blue Sky account. I could not give a shit.
My favorite thing is just every time he does something dumb, everyone just migrates to a new platform.
Yeah. I want them all gone. I don't want them to exist. I want it gone, and I'm addicted to it, so I need someone to take it away permanently and just nuke it. So when Twitter shuts down, I'll be very happy. And I'm glad it wasn't here for these Oscars, because it would have just been unbearable.
Yeah, it would have been real bad. But yeah, it was really just between these two. Like the others,
none of these other ones were really involved at all. George Clooney even he referenced that in his speech for Best Supporting Actor. He's like, "Well, I'm not winning anything else, basically, because I'm not winning."
Well, he said, "I'm not winning director," which
right.
I mean, obviously he knew. I mean, I guess we could do director now.
Well, first we got to do this, Joyce. The 5 other movies.
All right, I blocked that out because I had a lot of trouble filling out the rest.
So here's what I came up with based on like what was nominated and how they did. Walk the Line.
Yeah, I wrote that down too, just because I know other option, but James Mangold would not be anywhere close to a directing nomination.
Agree, but I think it could have gotten in for Best Picture with 6.
Yeah, and I have Constant Gardener.
Same.
I have History of Violence.
I don't have that one.
I think it would have definitely been in had this happened like 5 years ago, like within the last 5 years.
Yeah.
It had, I think the support was kind of peaking too late for it. You know, William Hurt got the surprise nomination here for like 10 minutes of screen time at the end. Um, I wrote down The New World, even though that would never happen, but I like wrote that down.
The other ones I wrote down were Memoirs of a Geisha.
I wrote that down too, but I don't think it would have actually happened. It just had a lot of tech stuff.
That's why I was like, if it was 10, maybe it would have gotten in.
There was no passion for it.
None.
I feel like this is a case where people would just not fill out the rest.
I put Hustle and Flow.
I put that down too, but I'm like, I don't know. I put down The Squid and the Whale. I think that could have been like an indie thing, especially
maybe
in like this era.
I put down Match Point. I think could have gotten in, and Pride and Prejudice.
I mean, obviously I wrote down Pride and Prejudice, but I don't think that was close. There's just like all these movies that are like good, but I don't think they realistically would have happened. I feel like if it was a sliding scale, it would have maybe been like 6 or 7 movies.
I think it would have been 6. If it was my personal ones, it would be like Wedding Crashers and 40-Year-Old Virgin and all these other ones, but none of those are getting in. This is a very rough year. It's just
it's just very top heavy, and the 5 were pretty much solidified
pretty early
on, so there wasn't any. I mean, PGA nominated Walk the Line, but that's not really that surprising because they're more mainstream.
But I mean, that's like literally the only. It's just like, this is bad. Let's go.
They nominated that instead of Munich, but you know,
Munich was also late, which I felt like maybe. Okay. Yeah. All right, let's go to director. Ang Lee wins for Brokeback. Good on the Academy. Other nominees were Bennett Miller for Capote, Paul Haggis for Crash, Clooney for Good Night and Good Luck, and Spielberg for Munich. No notes. Ang Lee should win for Best Director. I love that. Great.
Yeah, this is another instance of just how top heavy and kind of, you know, quote unquote boring this year was. Like, we match perfectly here with directing and picture.
Yes. There's not even another. The other names I wrote down were Fernando Meirelles for Constant Gardener.
I did that too, but I was like, he was not. Like, I also did down David Cronenberg for History of Violence, but like, no way.
And I put Woody down for Match Point, and that's it. I mean, nothing else. I don't know.
I mean, like, I don't think Woody was close at all.
No,
like BAFTA nominated Fernando.
Yes.
So like I said, I don't think Mango was close.
No.
I wrote down Baumbach, but that was also not happening.
No.
It's just like all these people that could have, should have, but would have never.
No.
I also wrote down Wong Kar-wai for 2046.
Sure. Tough. This is just a tough.
Yeah, but like, no notes on this win. You know, we got a split this year, and this is also back when obviously Field of Five and Best Picture, less common splits with directing back then in that era. So, but this was just always Ang Lee's to lose, and yeah, I don't know. There's nothing else to say.
Who do you think was second?
I don't even know if Paul was second.
I don't think he was.
I don't think so. I don't know. I don't think it was Clooney.
I think it could have been Bennett Miller.
Maybe.
But I agree. I don't think Paul was,
especially when he made it in as a lone nominee years later for Foxcatcher.
Yes. I just don't think.
I don't think Spielberg was winning for this.
No. I just don't think Haggis was second, though, because I don't think anybody took it seriously as a directing effort. But that he got nominated shows you, A, what a weak year it was, and B, that they obviously like the movie.
It's just like another Bridge of Spies.
Right.
Or I guess Bridge of Spies was another Munich.
Right. So. Best Actor, Joyce. We're just going to plow through some of these because, like we said, not a lot. Philip Seymour Hoffman wins for Capote. Great. Love Philip Seymour Hoffman. I thought his speech was wonderful.
It's a great speech. Obviously, you know, very sad because he and Heath Ledger no longer with us. And then 3 years later, they face off again, and Heath wins. And he had already died by then. So,
I don't know if this is on my list of like all-time Philip Seymour Hoffman performances because I like other ones more, but this is a great performance. And obviously, complete Oscar bait because he's transforming into a real-life figure, and it's a biopic, basically.
Yeah, his I think people were very wowed by how much he mimicked his voice.
Yes.
So this year, you know, as you know, I love dueling films about the same thing. So this year, there was also, or no, it was the next year. It was like Infamous.
Yes.
Yeah. So Toby Jones was also Capote, and I think like he's a better Capote spiritually, but Philip Seymour Hoffman did, like, I don't want to reduce it to mimicry, but like that's basically kind of what it was. Like it was like the voice, and then like also just kind of like the commitment to it is very like DDL.
It is, and he's holding his body differently. He like basically like shrinks down.
It's very physical, and I think that's really what people took to and what wowed them. Yeah, but like this, you know, I think early on people thought like Heath Ledger could win. He won New York film critics, so, but like Philip Seymour Hoffman just plowed through everything else, and then like no one else was gonna win. Like Terrence Howard, Frost and Flow, no. Joaquin Phoenix for Walk the Line, no. David Strathairn for Good Night and Good Luck.
No.
Yeah. So
the other thing that's funny about it is like, I don't, like you're saying, like I think there is a large amount of mimicry in it, obviously. That's not something you think about. It's like, so this is like such a, I would say probably like an outlier in a Philip Seymour Hoffman filmography.
Yeah, but it kind of makes sense. Like this is the one he won the Oscar for.
Exactly. It's very funny, but like it's like he doesn't usually do that.
No.
And then that's what he won for. I have no notes on this. Like I said, great speech. I love Philip Seymour Hoffman. He's one of the greatest actors of our lifetime, and it's very sad.
Yeah, and then like this lineup was pretty in lockstep throughout the season, and I wrote down Russell Crowe, who did get in at SAG for Cinderella Man.
Russell Crowe, well,
yeah, but they were just over Russell Crowe.
I wrote down Ray Fiennes, so I think got in a BAFTA maybe.
Yeah, they like Constant Gardner.
For Constant Gardner.
I did Viggo Mortensen for History of Violence.
Sure.
I did Steve Carell for Your Version. Jeff Daniels for Squid and the Whale.
Yeah, these are my my faves right here. Yeah.
So, but yeah, none of them had a shot. It was just, again, top heavy.
No. Yeah, none of these are like, that's the other thing going through the acting. Not one is like even a race really, or a surprise, which is the Best Actress, Reese Witherspoon just basically steamrolling for Walk the Line.
Yeah, this is one of those things where it was her time. And like everyone just decided it was like American Sweetheart.
Yes.
You know, it's been a couple years since Legally Blonde when she established herself as like an adult like box office star.
Yes.
She's done a couple of rom-coms since then, and this was like her like serious Oscar play.
Yes.
And this is also like the precursor to like the J-Law win for Silver Linings Playbook, because like the female who you could also like fraud and supporting, not fraud, but they were like both borderline, you know.
Yeah.
And they win, but the male lead does not win.
Right. I honestly think if it was another year, even ones we've done recently, Joaquin would have won. You know, I just think like it's like that is like, I mean, I guess you could argue it's like Austin Butler and Elvis, so like he's not going to win for that maybe, but I think there's a world where he would have won in one of these years, but not this year, obviously.
I think he needs like a really, really weak year. I also wonder how much like having just honored Jamie Foxx the year before.
I think that hurt it. It felt like Jamie Foxx, though much better than Rami Malek in Bohemian Rhapsody, was like,
I mean, like everyone was. So but yeah, this was just another steamroll for Reese, and you know, big night for that household because Ryan Phillippe is in Crash, and then that one Best Picture, and then 7 months later they split. So
I was watching that speech with like a hawk, because I know they split obviously, and they had that moment at was it the year before, or when he was like, you make more?
3 years before,
which is just a tough look.
It was 4 years before, because it was right after Legally Blonde.
No, that's right, where you make more. Anyway, she thanked him. It's like not like a Chad Lowe situation, but you could tell he didn't look super pleased, I would say, when she won. I don't know, maybe I'm reading into it, but the other nominees there were Judi Dench for Mrs. Henderson Presents, Felicity Huffman for Transamerica, Keira Knightley for Pride and Prejudice, and Charlize Theron making good for Monster with North Country.
Yeah, I always love when people get their sophomore noms after winning on their freshman noms.
Yes.
So she only did it 2 years later, so great. That was just obviously just like a filler nom. She was not going to win. And I was very happy that Kira made it because she missed SAG. So and she also missed BAFTA. So because they nominated Zhang Zi, and so did SAG. So the Oscars once again snubbing Zhang Zi for Members of a Geisha. After, I mean, she had less of a chance for like Crouching Tiger, but you know.
Yeah.
So
I mean, they didn't seem to like Members of Geisha.
No. And
who else did you write down?
And then like Felicity Huffman won the Drama Globe, but again, this was back when they put just music biopics in musical or comedy.
Yes.
Now it would be in drama, and I think Reese would have won.
Definitely.
So
the other purple Zhang Zi, and I wrote down Laura Linney for Squid and the Whale. Never would have happened, but
yeah, I also wrote down Vera Farmiga for Down to the Bone. That was a Sundance hit in 2004, but it came out a year later. It was like another crap situation. So I think she won a couple critics prizes, but she was not happening. I also wrote down Joan Allen for The Upside of Anger because that came out in the spring, and it was like I remember there was like a soft push for her by the end of the year when people were just looking for like underdogs to champion. So it was like her and Kevin Costner for that film.
Great. Best Supporting Actor, Joyce. George Clooney wins for Syriana.
Yeah, so he only won the Globe. He lost SAG to Paul Giamatti, and he lost BAFTA to Jake Gyllenhaal. Both nominated here, but George was a double nominee at BAFTA.
Yes.
So
I liked Syriana. It was like fake Soderbergh. You got traffic writer Stephen Gagin, who now does this. And I was reading the Wikipedia page because I haven't seen Syriana in a long time, and I did like it at the time. And I liked it. And even reading the Wikipedia page, I was like, it's good. Clooney is great. He has like one great scene that's like his Oscar clip with like Christopher Plummer, and he was tortured by Mark Strong so aggressively, I think, in the movie that he had to go to the hospital. That was like the big thing. Like he he hit his head so hard getting knocked over that he like had like a severe concussion that like leaked spinal fluid out of his nose. So for that, he wins an Oscar basically.
It was also because of Good Night and Good Luck.
Yeah.
Like this was just a big year for him, and it was one of those things where everyone just agreed, like, we're gonna give it to him in supporting actor for this film that we don't even like that much, but he's great in it, and we can't really acknowledge his other film that he actually directed in any meaningful way. So this would just be the representative win for him overall.
I also think when you have like a guy like Clooney who's like a matinee idol basically, right? Like it always helps when it's like he put on like weight and grew a beard, and that'll help.
Yeah, he deglammed. It was the male deglam.
Yes, he did the male deglam. Bill Simmons would have been very proud.
Yeah. So then, yeah, like the other ones like Matt Dillon in Crash with like the reformed racist cop.
So I feel like, again, in hindsight, tell me if I'm wrong, that feels like a canary in the coal mine that would win Best Picture that he got in. Like he probably
he got in everywhere, so it wasn't. I think had Crash got it in a second person like Don Cheadle, like that would have been a bigger signal. But again, we knew it was like Brokeback versus Crash.
Okay.
I mean, anyway, but he got in. He was like the consensus pick of the ensemble,
right?
Matt Dillon,
right? Okay.
And yeah, like Giamatti makeup nom for Sideways.
Big makeup nom vibes.
Huge makeup nom. Jake Gyllenhaal. Do you think? I'm okay with him going supporting.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
I prefer him in the movie to Heath. I was never that crazy about the Heath performance, honestly. It's good, but I'm like not upset that he lost to Philip Seymour Hoffman.
I think Heath had the tougher race, but Jake was up against someone who had other things going.
Yeah, that's fair. And then, like you mentioned, William Hurt was the other nominee.
Yeah, great. Over Ed Harris, who has the bigger role in the film. So that was a good surprise nominee.
Yeah. Anything else? The people I wrote down were Clooney for Good Night and Good Luck. Not going to happen.
Also because he can't be nominated for both.
That's what I mean. Matthew Good for Match Point. I thought was great. Love Matthew Good. Matthew Good stands. Here I am again.
Well, like I mentioned, my guy Matthew McFadden, Mr. Darcy.
Val Kilmer for Kiss Kiss Bang Bang. Obviously never happened.
So great in that. So great.
One that I actually think if the movie was bigger probably would have happened is Jeffrey Rush for Munich. I think he's great in it. It's like really good.
I think there were a lot of possible people for Munich overall.
Yeah.
I
mean,
what was his name? Oh, Mathieu Amalric.
Yes.
Yeah, he was great.
And I wanted to flag another Heath Ledger performance from this year that I really loved, Lords of Dogtown.
That's an underrated movie.
Yeah, really good. Yeah. Supporting actress Rachel Weisz wins for Constant Gardener. Just another like steamrolling through. Here we go. Like no surprise there, right? I mean,
yeah, and she only missed BAFTA because they put her in lead there.
Yes.
So she lost that to Reese Witherspoon. It's like a Jennifer Connelly situation.
The other nominees were Amy Adams for Junebug, first time.
The start of Amy Adams.
Really cute movie. Not my fave, but it's like a solid movie. Catherine Keener for Capote, Frances McDormand for North Country, just a complete Franny filler nom, and then Michelle Williams for Brokeback, who's really great in Brokeback Mountain. I would have done Anne Hathaway too for Brokeback.
Yeah, Anne got like nothing. Anne was the Sandra Oh of the quartet.
She's great in it though. I mean, she's not it. She's obviously in it less and like
no, but she has the phone call scene at the end.
Yeah,
really great.
She's really good.
Yeah. I would have done Michelle for the win. I really love that performance. I also love. I mean, obviously her dress that year is an iconic dress now. That orange dress. Yes. She and Amy tied at Critics' Choice, one of the few times Critics' Choice, or not few, but like back then they didn't really. They made their own decisions back then too. But yeah, this like Rachel was just always gonna win. That was like the consensus.
Yeah, like that's the thing, like you're saying, like this year was so top heavy, there's really no surprises except for Crash winning Best Picture, which was a surprise, though in hindsight even that doesn't feel like a surprise to me. But yeah,
because it had already built it, the one SAG, and it was like people were aware that in the industry back then that it was being watched and people liked it. So but yeah, this was nothing really exciting, this race. This was another near miss for Maria Bello for History of Violence. 2 years after The Cooler. They nominated her in lead at the Globes. I don't know if it's like really category confusion.
It might have been.
Maybe, but I think it was just like the movie did not peak enough yet.
No.
It peaked enough for William Hurt.
I thought
like Diane Keaton, I would do.
Dakota Fanning, War of the Worlds. Great.
Catherine Keener had a lot of great supporting roles this year. So, she got the nom for Capote, but she, like we said, she was great in For Your Virgin. I think she won some, or maybe it was runner up at some critics award for, they do the multiple citations. For her. Thandiwe Newton won the BAFTA for Crash in Rachel Weisz's absence.
Could have been nominated here for sure.
Yeah.
But she's really good in the movie. And that's it.
Yeah.
So we go to Screenplay, Joyce.
Screenplay, just chalk.
Crash.
Still.
And Brokeback.
Yeah, Brokeback won. Adapted.
And again, the other nominees are 4 other movies we've talked a ton about: Capote, Constant Gardener, A History of Violence, and Munich. And I
would have nominated Pride and Prejudice. So
sure. And then for original screenplay, Crash won. Other nominees were Good Night and Good Luck, Match Point, The Squid and the Whale, and Syriana. All 4 better than Crash. Somehow Crash wins. Sure.
Then was going to win Best Picture. And so this was the Oscar that Paul Haggis thought, like the only Oscar he thought he was going to get. Because, he was the only person who didn't win for $1 Million Baby the year before.
Yes.
So he got this Oscar. He was not expecting the second one. This, I would have done For Your Virgin.
Absolutely.
So.
Yeah. Haggis, like we said, did a lot of there's a Vulture Oral History that's like really good about Crash. HuffPost did one. Matthew Jacobs did an interview with Haggis that he looked back on it, and he says, "Are you able to look back and say that Crash did deserve the awards?" This is Matt, and Paul Haggis goes, "Oh no, I can't say that. I mean, look at Good Night and Good Luck, amazing movie. Look at Munich, amazing film. Look at Capote, brilliant film. I'm very happy we're in that pack, but to win over those pictures." And then he says he did vote for himself. Sure.
I mean,
Why
most
wouldn't
people
you?
do. So
Right. Why is he gonna not vote for himself?
yeah.
Yeah.
So after the ceremony, like Crash only won 3. Brokeback also won 3. So this was a low count year for and I think Memoirs also won 3, right?
Yeah.
Memoirs, yeah, all craft stuff. So then Annie Proulx, who won the short story Brokeback is based on, she wrote an op-ed a couple days later in The Guardian about the Oscar experience, and did not mince words. So she basically drags the Oscars and said, like, you should go to the Independent Spirit Awards the day before, and wrote in parentheses, if you're looking for smart judging based on merit, skip the Academy Awards next year and pay attention to independent spirit choices.
Wow.
And then blah, blah, blah. Okay, so we should have known conservative heffalump Academy voters would have rather different ideas of what was stirring contemporary culture. Roughly 6,000 film industry voters, mostly in the Los Angeles area. Many living cloistered lives behind wrought iron gates or in deluxe rest homes. Out of touch, not only with the shifting larger culture and the yeasty ferment that is America these days, but also out of touch with their own segregated city, decide which films are good. And rumor has it that Lionsgate inundated the Academy voters with DVD copies of Crash, a few weeks before the ballot deadline. Next year, we can look to the awards for controversial themes on the punishment of adulterers with a branding iron in the shape of the letter A, runaway slaves, and the debate over free silver.
Wow. That's amazing.
So,
no fucks is what we call that.
Yeah, no fucks. I respect it. She can say whatever she wants. So
the other one I know you have up is the counterpoint, I guess, to that would be Roger Ebert, Joyce, who loved Crash. It was his favorite movie of the year, and then defended it as the winner.
And he actually predicted it to win. So he wrote in his predictions. He actually said the likely winner of this year's Best Picture award is Crash, a film that was all but written off last September when Oscar season kicked off at the Toronto Film Festival. Conventional wisdom says that a movie that opens in early May will be forgotten by early June, but Crash held and built all summer long, supported by word of mouth, and was doing well in September. It's the kind of film people feel strongly about, and I've heard a curious note in the voices of people discussing it. They sound serious and moved, and as it made them take a longer look at themselves. They think of it as making an important statement. I don't disagree with any of this. I agree with all of this. I think they did think it was making an important statement, but it just lacked a nuance, and it wasn't successful in making the statement that it maybe set out to do. So then he says, Brokeback Mountain, another powerful film, was thought to be the Oscar leader, but I sense that its support has faded in recent weeks as voters take another look at Crash. Brokeback has the more purely emotional appeal. It tells the story of two men in love for a lifetime and unable or afraid to act on their feelings. Crash stands back. It has scenes of powerful emotion, but because of its large cast, it is more about ideas than lives, especially the idea that in a multicultural society, racism is more complex than we like to think and doesn't sort its victims into the good and the evil, but finds everyone can be a little bit of both. So this is like early stages of both sidesism. So, but yeah, he predicted Crash to win.
And after he basically was like, he liked both. Roger
Yeah,
did not dislike Brokeback.
Yeah.
He just thought Crash was a better movie.
Yeah,
he thought Crash was a better movie. Couple of things, Joyce, we have to talk about, I guess, before we wrap up here. Best original song. It's Hard Out Here for a Pimp.
Why are they the most excited people here? That's how you should expect an Oscar.
Just amazing.
Great,
first of all,
great moment.
Really an all-time Oscar moment. The other nominees here, not surprised it won, but the other nominees were In the Deep from Crash, incredible, just Snow White and Rob Lowe moment of the car on fire behind poor Kathleen Bird York, who's like an actress and an indie artist who, again, gave another interview with Vulture about this and was just like, she was mortified that they had gussied up her plaintive ballad with a literally car on fire behind her, which is maybe very symbolic.
But that's like the most famous scene from
certainly. And then traveling through from Transamerica, Dolly Parton. People really love Dolly Parton when she came out.
So this is so Dolly Parton was the U2 to 3-6 Mafia's Eminem.
Yes. And then there's 3-6 Mafia with Taraji P. Henson just killing it in the show. Doesn't win an Oscar, but like just killing the performance. They win because of her. I really think that.
Well, now she can win an Oscar for The Color Purple.
I was thinking that too, and I think at this point I'll have her in first because she's so good.
Because of this 18 years ago.
She's so good.
My favorite thing about the win was that because they were backstage because they had just performed, and Queen Latifah announces it, and she's at one of the podiums, like off center, the side.
Yes.
And then like the winners will accept at center stage.
Yes.
But like they were coming from like stage left,
and they come to her podium.
They run to her. They pass the trophy girls just to hug Latifah. It's so great.
It's so good, and Queen Latifah is so hyped.
She's so excited.
I love it. I really love it. It's a great moment,
and it's a great speech. And that is how you should accept an Oscar. Like we've talked about it a bunch of times before. Like we show some excitement, and
love that.
Especially like these days, people are so demure about it when they win.
It was awesome moment. Other stuff, let me see what else I wrote.
Well, that also led to later on Jon Stewart's iconic joke that, for those keeping score at home, Martin Scorsese, 0 Oscars, 3-6
Mafia, 1. Great moment. The other thing that he did throughout was, this was the time of John Kerry and the Swift Boat stuff, and they did like negative campaign ads with Stephen Colbert voicing them before he's like Stephen Colbert. I mean, obviously Colbert Report, but not like Stephen Colbert.
He was still, again, he was like a neophyte.
And so he's voicing these like Oscar hate like campaign ads that are really funny. And like, I'm like surprised they even like let him do it, because I don't know. There's like
Judi Dench. Take on a different tenor now.
The Judi Dench one is hilarious because it's like she sucks basically. Judi Dench took my eye out.
Because they talk to other dames.
She's not a dame.
And then one of them is like James Helen Smith Smythe Smith. It's like double hyphens.
It's really funny.
And what's the one? Oh, for Keira, because they mock Charlize for deglamming. So Keira Knightley acting while beautiful.
Really fun. I'm like, none of these would fly. I felt like now. I don't think people would.
No, especially now, but just because of the awards industry complex.
Yes.
The way it is now, like it would be so different now. But back then it was just, like pre-social media. And even though, Harvey had already done his damage, FYC wise, like it was not as like such a behemoth as it is now, like the entire industry. So I also love the one that like the final title card that was like a shadow organization in no way affiliated with Felicity Huffman. Really
funny. The other thing they did, I guess, really in lieu of like a big honorary Oscars moment or anything, they do Robert Altman obviously wins, which is nice, but like there's not a lot of, they do a ton of montages. This is like the montage year, to the point where at one point Jon Stewart comes out, holy crap, we're out of clips. We're literally out of film clips. If you have film clips, please send them. We have another 3 hours.
They also got Tom Hanks to like show what happens if you go too long in your speech. It was just like people, like an orchestra on stage playing him off. Really the fun. One bad thing about the production this year was the underscore during people's speeches. Weird choice.
Weird choice. Yeah, they're always trying to tweak what doesn't need to be tweaked.
No, let the people speak. Like some of these people are never going to be up here again. No. Let them have their moment. I wrote down also Martin McDonagh winning for Six Shooter.
That's the other thing I wrote down. Yes. He seems really psyched. He thanks Brendan Gleeson.
Yeah. So the lead in that film had a visa issue, so that's what he was referring to in his speech. So
and that's it. I guess that's it. That's the 78th Oscars. So we're gonna be back. We already did the 70.
We already did The Departed. So if you want to go in order, you could watch that one right now. Yeah. It was from a year ago.
Yeah, it's great. Departed wins. We love it. One of our favorite movies, I would argue. At least one of my favorite movies. Joyce, how about you?
It's one of my faves. It's probably my fave Scorsese. I know you love Goodfellas.
I think it's my. I was ranking them because he's got a new movie coming out, Joyce, that we'll spend a lot of time talking about.
I don't know where I would rank Killers of the Flower Moon.
I'll tell you, not in the top 10 for me, but I did have the Goodfellas and The Departed are 1 and 2, and then I think Wolf of Wall Street and then Taxi Driver probably.
I think I would do Departed, Wolf, Raging Bull as my top 3.
Wow, Raging Bull's in like the top 5 for me. I guess I was like the ones as I've gotten older, I'm like way more into like I used to like After Hours a lot, but I watched it recently and I was like, it's fine. And I would much prefer to watch like Cape Fear. I like Marty and genre mode. I'm just like, fuck yeah, go for it. Cape Fear rules.
I mean, I like Shutter Island.
So Shutter Island's really good. So then we're gonna be back then, not with that at Oscars.
We're gonna be back with like the grimmest Oscars ever, like tone, like movie wise. No Country for Old Men.
The 80th annual Oscars, Jon Stewart back again. That was it.
That's one of his jokes. Is like, what's wrong with you people? It's like all these like violent, like downers.
This is I would argue, we'll talk about this certainly, one of the best years ever for movies. 2007.
Yeah, it's a great year. And I like a lot of from that year too.
Oh my god, really great. Yeah. So I'm looking forward to that.
That was a great Marion Cotillard win too.
Yes, not a crash in that bunch.
No crash.
So we got through. We got through it, Joyce. I'm so proud of us.
Yes. I don't know. I was worried. I was like, I have nothing. I wrote down like 20 movies.
And yet
it's like one of my shortest lists.
And yet here we are, bordering on another 2 hours or 90 minutes. All right. We'll be back. So then we'll be back with the 80th annual Oscars, Joyce. This is gonna be great. Talk to you then.